Hi, Melanie here, and today I'm showing you how to make these fabulous Thanksgiving gnomes. For my Thanksgiving gnome, I'm inflating two 5-inch balloons to 5 inches with 5 strokes of the hand pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remove the balloon from the hand pump straight away, otherwise the balloon will deflate because you will lose air through the pump. Put a twist in the neck just to trap the air. Okay, and then I like to hang on to that neck of the balloon against the hand pump while I inflate the next balloon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remove from the hand pump and tie and wrap the balloon the next round once, twice and tie. Okay, I've inflated a second pair also to 5 inches for the shoes, and I'm going to connect these pairs together at the centre just by holding them at the centre and then flipping that balloon over the top, and that's just going to secure those balloons together to form a quad. My next cluster I've inflated to 4.5 inches, and I'm using a small water weight. If you need to know how to make water weights, I'll leave a link in the description below to where you can find my tutorial. And I'm just going to pull this into the base here, into the centre, and then get my next cluster, my next quad, pull the neck up into the centre of that quad, and then wrap that neck around those balloons. Okay, and that's going to connect everything together. And it's really important that as you build up your layers for this sculpture, that the balloons on the top layer sit between two balloons in the lower layer. And I've inflated my next cluster to 4 inches, and I'm just adding that in the same way, using one of the necks from the cluster below to just wrap that around. This next cluster I've inflated to 4.5 inches in diameter, and I'm just taking one of the necks from the cluster below and pulling that up into the centre. And it's important that when you do that, that the grey balloon lines up between this gap between the shoes. Okay, so just wrap that neck around a couple of times. Okay, this is another cluster inflated to 4.5 inches. And we're positioning the 2 grey balloons above the single grey here. I've got another cluster inflated to 4.5 inches. Another cluster inflated to 4 inches. And this last cluster inflated to 4 inches. I've inflated this balloon with just 1 stroke of the hand pump to 3 inches, and I'm just going to connect that into the top. So I'm just pulling that into the top here, and then pulling that down into this second layer and around. I'm just wrapping that around. Okay, so that just finishes off the top of the hat. For the nose, I've inflated this balloon to 3.5 inches in diameter, so 2 strokes of the hand pump, and I'm just going to connect this here. So I'm just going to pull this into the grey balloon at the side, back, wrap it around twice, and then just let go. And then just adjust this because these balloons are going to line up. For the arms, I'm using a 350 twisting balloon, but if you don't have a 350, use a 260 instead. 1, 2, 3. 3 strokes of the hand pump and tie. For the hands, I'm inflating a round balloon just with 1 stroke of the hand pump, put a twist in the neck, and then tie that directly onto the nozzle, knot and nozzle of the arm. We can put a twist here, and then I'm just going to snip off the end and tie a knot. And just pull that through. I've inflated a 160 twisting balloon to a tail of about 4 fingers, and again, if you don't have a 160, use a 260 instead. I'm a big believer in using the balloons that you've got in stock, okay? And I'm just loosely wrapping the 160 around the arm just to form a cuff, and then at this point I'm just going to twist and then take hold of that knot and nozzle and just pull that into the twist there, and then you can wrap and pull that little bit of excess underneath there, and then we can break off. Okay, save this bit because we're going to need that for the other cuff. Okay, and then we can tie this into a knot here, and I like to tie twice. Okay, and then I can just cut away the excess here. Okay, and you're going to need to make another one of these. I'm tying the 2 arms together loosely. Okay, so pull that, and then just below the nose, position the arms, just pull that stretchy bit through and bring them round to the front. Okay, and what you can do to take up some of the slack, you can bring the arm back there. This one is quite loose, so you can wrap that around. Okay, now don't worry too much about the position of the arms. We're going to sort that out later, but at the moment it looks like he's going to take off. Okay, next I've inflated a 350 black to a tail of a couple of fingers, and again, if you don't have a 350 and you do have a 260, then use a 260 instead. You'll just get a slightly smaller brim of the hat, but it will look perfectly well. So don't worry too much about having exactly the right balloons for this design. Okay, so we're going to position the brim of the hat just above the nose, and then I'm just bringing the ends of the 350 together at the back, and I'm just going to tie them together. Okay, and I'm just going to tie twice because that is under a lot of tension. Okay, and then let's have a look. I'm inflating a 5-inch balloon with just 1 stroke of the hand pump, and I'm pushing it far down onto the hand pump. Okay, because this balloon is very underinflated, and so you might just want to give it a little massage to bring out the shine. Okay, and I'm going to split this in half. So I'm putting my hands either side of the knot, and my hands are going to twist in opposite directions. So this hand will twist this way and that hand will twist that way. Okay, so grab hold of it. Okay, it does seem a little brutal, but don't worry. So I've got a firm hold of this and I'm just twisting in opposite directions. Okay, and then I'm taking that neck and nozzle and wrapping it around and tying. Okay, so this is what I call the split duplet. And then using a 160 or a 260, just wrap that around the middle of that split and tie on. Okay, so these balloons that I use for, these twisting balloons that I use for this type of technique, I tend to use, if I've got any old ones that are past their best, that are starting to feel a little bit hard or brittle, then those are the ones I tend to use. Okay, so they still have a useful purpose. I just tend to keep them away from my other balloons because they can give off a bit of gas if they're too far gone. Okay, so we want to pull this into the sculpture here. So this buckle is just going to nestle in between these two balloons, and then bring your twisting balloon through the centre of the sculpture, back here, and just wrap around, and then bring that back. And here, I'm just going to wrap that around one of the balloons at the back. And then you can just let go, just ping it out and let go, and it will just disappear into the sculpture. Let's have a look. Okay. For the belt, I've inflated a 260 to a tail of about 3 fingers. Okay, and I'm just going to encircle the sculpture with the 260. And at the back here, I'm just going to, I want it to fit quite snugly. So I just want to twist a small bubble here, take the knot and nozzle there, wrap it around, and then I can just take my scissors, snip a hole in the end, and then tie. And I'm just going to tie that twice, just to be on the safe side, okay? And then I can trim away the excess. Okay, so that's what it looks like at the back. I'm making another bottle, so again, we're going to do the split duplicate technique. So grabbing hold. So this balloon I have inflated with just one stroke of the hand pump to about 3 inches. So again, grab hold, be firm and twist. Okay, and then take that neck and nozzle, wrap it around, and there you've got your split duplicate. Okay, so now I'm looking at my gnome, and I want to find approximately the centre of this belt here, and I'm just going to squish it together a little bit and then take my buckle, slip it underneath, okay, like this, and then just push that in, wrap it around and twist. Okay, how easy was that? Next, we're going to sort out these arms. So I've got another 160. Again, use a 260 if that's what you've got. Just wrap this around a couple of times and tie on just underneath the cuff, okay? And then make a judgment call. Your sculpture the proportions may be slightly different. You may want a slightly different look, but I want to pull the arm in to just below the belt. So I'm just going to pull this around the front, through to the other side. I'm going to have a look. Okay. And then I'm going to get hold of the other arm and wrap the 160 around the wrist. Do that a couple of times and then tie. Okay. And I'm just going to tie the 160 now onto one of the nozzles that are underneath there, and then we can just stretch this out, snip it off, and it pings back. Okay. I think he's a fairly well-dressed gnome. For my balloon pumpkin, I've inflated a 260 twisting balloon to a tail of about 5 fingers, and I've softened this. I've squeezed it and stretched it to make sure the balloon is nice and soft. Okay, so starting at the nozzle end as we usually do, I'm going to twist a bubble that is approximately 5 fingers. So make several twists. Squeeze your balloon. So as you go along, keep squeezing your balloon to send the air towards the tip of the balloon. And then we want to make another bubble to match this one. So just fold the balloon over, measure approximately, and twist. Okay. And then take the knot and nozzle here, grab hold of the knot and nozzle and twist into that section there. And you can just take hold of the knot and nozzle, pass it through the centre because that's going to help ensure that doesn't come undone. Again, squeeze your balloon to keep it soft. And we want to make another bubble to match this one. Okay, so measure and twist. And don't get too hung up on the bubbles being absolutely perfectly the same size. Close is good enough, okay? And then take this bubble and we're going to part the 2 other bubbles and roll that 3rd bubble through, okay? So that's what you've got. Again, give your balloon a squeeze and twist another bubble that is approximately the same size as the previous bubbles. Bring this up to the top, and pull that twisted section over the top and take your knot and nozzle and just wrap it around that twisted section there, and then you can take the knot and nozzle and pass it underneath one of the other bubbles just to hold that in position. Okay, and then we're going to make another bubble that is approximately the same size as the previous ones, and you might want to part some of these bubbles and pull that twisted section, that little twisted section there, into the base. Okay, and then we're going to make one more bubble. Okay, so give your balloon a squeeze to keep it soft. Okay, and it's trickier with this final bubble to judge the size of the bubble, but try and make it as close as you can to the previous ones. Okay, and then we're going to bring that up to the top and wrap it into that knot and nozzle at the top. Okay, and we can take that knot and nozzle and pass it underneath one of the other bubbles to secure it. Okay, so this is what you've got. You've got quite a bit left, and we can just snip off the end. Okay, let out the air and then take the excess and bring it through the centre of those bubbles, around the bottom, and pull it tight, because what you're doing, you're cinching these bubbles together. Okay, and then when you get to the end, you can just wrap the excess underneath some of the other bubbles a few times. Okay, and then just lose the excess in the centre. Okay, and then we can just arrange these bubbles, just pull them out slightly and adjust. Okay, and there's your pumpkin. For the stalk of the pumpkin, I'm using a 260, and I'm going to cut away about 2 inches or so off the nozzle end, and then inflate with 2 strokes of the hand pump. I'm going to let a little bit of air out just to soften that, and then tie. Okay, and I gave a little squeeze there just to keep it soft, and I'm going to make a small loop of between 2 and 3 fingers. So just twist a small loop. Okay, and if you can, poke your finger through the centre of that loop and pass the knot through the centre. That's going to help ensure that doesn't come undone. And we want to make another loop approximately the same size, so 2 to 3 fingers, and twist. And a third loop, so just fold the balloon over, measure. I like to make 1 twist, and I have a look, That means that if I'm wildly out with my measurements, then I can always reverse the twist and have another go. But I'm quite happy with that one. So I'm going to twist that and then wrap it around the other loops. And again, don't worry if these loops aren't exactly the same size as one another. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bobble on the end of this pumpkin. So I'm just going to snap out the end and make a twist here. Okay, and then just very loosely encircle this bit of stalk. You don't need to grip it really tightly, but just put slight pressure on it, and then at the same time press down here, okay? And you get this little bubble effect there. Okay, so we've got our pumpkin stalk. Take the little bit of excess or the knot and nozzle and just pull that into the loops of the stalk. Okay, and there you've got a really adorable pumpkin. For your turkey, you're going to need a 5-inch balloon, and I've inflated this to about 4 inches, and I'm going to just let a little bit of air out. I want to be able to squeeze this balloon, okay, and then tie a soft knot, by which I mean don't pull the knot tightly, because I just want to be able to just roll that knot along the neck a little bit so we can squish the balloon somewhat. I've inflated a 160 to a tail of about 4 or 5 fingers. If you don't have a 160, don't worry, use a 260 twisting balloon instead, okay? And I'm just going to make a small loop of about 5 fingers. So twist that around and pass that knot through the centre of the loop to help ensure that doesn't come undone. And we're going to make another loop that is very similar in size. So I've just given my balloon a little squeeze to keep it soft. I'm going to measure. That's the other one. Make a twist, then have a look. I make one twist and then I have a little look. If I'm not happy with that twist, I can reverse the twist and then have another go. But I'm happy with that, so I'm just going to twist that around, okay? And we can take that knot and nozzle and just wrap that around the second loop, okay? The next loop, we're going to make a little bit bigger, okay? So maybe 6 fingers or so and twist around. Okie dokie. So this is what you've got. Snip off the end and let the air out of the balloon and tie a knot. And then just snip away this excess. Take your 5-inch balloon and we're going to try and twist a bubble at the end here. So you're going to want to grab a good amount of balloon because you're going to think that you're going to have a huge bubble at the end, but as you twist, the bubble kind of just disappears on you until it becomes quite small. Okay, so hold on to that. And then we're just going to wrap that little bubble into this cluster of loops. Okay, and we want the large loop at the top and the smaller 2 loops to the side. I've inflated a 260 to a long tail of probably 7 or 8 fingers. Okay, and I'm just going to make a small loop of about 4 fingers. Just twist that around. And again, as we've done before, pass that knot through the centre of the loop. Okay, squeeze your balloon to soften and make a small bubble of about 2 fingers. Okay, we're going to pinch twist this. So just fold the balloon over like that. And we're going to pull this bubble upwards. And as we do so, twist it around. Okay, so be firm and confident. Pull it upwards and twist it around. Okay, that wasn't too bad, was it? Okay, and we're going to make another bubble of about the same size. So squeeze your balloon to keep it soft. Again, a bubble of about 2 fingers. Okay, and fold the balloon over, and again we're going to get hold of this little bubble, pull it upwards and twist it around. And the more you do of these, the more confident you will become doing this technique. It's a very useful technique to master. Okay, there you go. And give your balloon a little squeeze, and then measure a bubble of about 5 fingers. Squeeze the balloon, make a bubble of about 2 fingers, 2 to 3 fingers. And yes, grab hold of this one, pull it upwards and twist it around. So you will be a master of pinch twists by the time you've made your turkey's head and neck. Okay, and then we're going to make one more pinch twist, the same sort of size bubble. Okay, grab hold of it, pull it upwards and twist it around. So pull it around, and there you go. Okie dokie. We can discard the rest of this balloon. So I'm just snipping off the end and tying a knot. So this is what you've got. I've got the tip of an orange 260, and I'm going to use my pocket pump just to put a very small amount of air in the end. Okay, so I just want to have a little tip, okay, and squeeze the air to the end and tie. Okay, so you can use a goldenrod tip, a yellow tip. I like to use orange for Thanksgiving because it just fits with the autumnal colours. And then pull that little bubble into these pinch twists here and just wrap around, okay? And then we can snip away the excess. For the face, I'm going to use a black Sharpie with a fine point just to draw some small eyes. Hopefully you can see that. And for the turkey, I tend to do quite worried eyebrows. Or wouldn't you be worried if you were a turkey at Thanksgiving in the States or a turkey at Christmas time in the UK? And then with my white Edding 750 paint pen, I'm just going to do 2 little dots in the eyes. And then for the chin, I think it's called a wattle, but don't quote me on that. I might just have made up a word. But for the wattle chin, I'm using an uninflated 5-inch round. Hearts work well, but you can just use an uninflated 5-inch round and just wrap that into the pinch twist there. So just wrap it around and underneath the little beak. Then you might just need to pull it out a little bit. Okay, and then take the nozzle from your 5-inch balloon and wrap it into those 2 pinch twists. Okay, and then let's have a look. And there we've got our Thanksgiving turkey. So just bring that twisting balloon around the wrist and then just wrap the other end of the twisting balloon into those loops at the top of the pumpkin. I'm going to just tuck the turkey under the sculpture's arm. So just pull that arm outwards and just tuck the turkey inside that arm. So let's have a look. I think our gnome looks all set for Thanksgiving.